A little while ago, I posed the question if any of you wanted to see a video on this thing, and quite a frighteningly large amount of you wanted to see something on this, so why not give the people they wanted my complete inept tool review of this thing? Well, it's obviously some kind of multi-tool, and for me, I've always wanted a multi-tool that did something kind of weird. Sure, you can go out and spend 70, 80 bucks on a nice Leatherman that has like a lifetime warranty and you'd be completely good, but while those are very good at what they do, this just seemed a lot more fun to me. It's hard for me to find a multi-tool that does something different, and when I saw this thing, I instantly knew I had to buy it. And the good news is they're ridiculously cheap, and the quality for what you get is definitely up to par. So, it's a multi-tool. Around in here, you've got the variety of tools that you could expect from a multi-tool, and then of course you've got the business end up here, which is clearly a hammer. And then you've got a prying hook from a hammer. But if you squeeze this handle down and gently remove that, you get a pair of pliers, adjustable wrench, and then of course wire strippers and cutters. All of that in a small tool that closes it up and fits pretty nicely in a pocket. Not perfectly, but pretty nicely. Much better if you have like a hammer loop on your pants like a variety of mine do. This is an actual hammer, a very, very cheap hammer, and as you can see, the multi-tool is a bit shorter than that, which can pose to be a problem for a hammer. You need that leverage on it. The point I'm trying to make is that while multi-tools generally don't replace every tool they have in their arsenal, they can still be somewhat useful in the tools that they have, and the hammer on this is no exception. It will hammer a nail. I don't have a plank of wood or anything in front of me to show you hammering a nail, but it will do it. The problem is I wouldn't want to use it for very long because you have to kind of put your hand down here, and that means this is going to rub into the meat of your hand. It is very much going to blister very quickly, but it can be used as a hammer if the need arises. Now, for it being a multi-tool, for it to be a hammer, and for it to have a decent prying hook, you would really very much hope that the lockup would be completely solid. And for that, I have to say, with what use I have used out of this thing in the past 2 weeks, the lockup is still very, very solid. There is a tiny little bit of wiggle, which may become worse over time, but for the price of, I think I paid 11 bucks for this thing, I'm not going to complain all that much. And the hammer, completely no movement whatsoever. It does get noticeably flimsier if I open it up. This is now very loose. And of course, this is on one piece of metal, so yeah, it's gonna kind of wiggle around all at once. But once it's locked together, it's perfectly fine. And that is very, very important for a knife. What is more important that this thing doesn't have is any kind of lockup for any of the tools in here. So if you were to slide out one of these tools, like say the knife, well, it does have some tension, but there is no lockup. So if you're expecting to use this for anything extensive, you're not gonna get it. Not that you were expecting much, but there is zero lockup here, which is kind of a shame. But it does come with a wide variety of tools, starting of course with this knife. It is your basic knife. There is nothing super special about it, and with it being, well, a cheapo knife, it gets the job done. I've used it a little bit. It wasn't super sharp out of the box, but still cuts, no problem. I've mainly used it to cut popsicles open, so, I mean, and cut a little bit of paper packages and whatnot, so it works. Again, it's not the main point of this entire thing, it just happens to have it in there. The next tool we've got is some kind of nut wrench thing. I have tried to use it to undo these nuts right here, and these nuts did not fit in any of these holes. So these nuts be too big for this tool. And then of course you've got your typical bottle opener right there and some kind of notch right there, which I can only assume does something, but I couldn't figure out what. I'm guessing if you ever find, maybe these are very, very common sizes you would find on cars or something like that. I have no idea, but I haven't actually been able to use this. And of course you've got some kind of narrowed down opening right here, which I guess would be considered a flathead screwdriver. A very big one, but yes, some kind of flat-haired screwdriver, I'm imagining, because the next tool is, in fact, a Phillips head screwdriver, a standard O-sized Phillips screwdriver, and it does, in fact, work just fine. Here is a bolt, and then it goes right in there and obviously undoes the screw. Works perfectly fine, no lockup, doesn't really matter, but hey, it works. No other tool on here from what I can see, just a pretty standard thing. The next tool is a little bit more interesting, if I could get it out. It is a rather jagged little saw. And I've seen these kinds of things on tools before, but this one just happens to be extremely jagged. In fact, I haven't tested this, but I'm willing to bet it would cut through this like it wasn't even there. Yeah. It will saw through plastic and, of course, wood. I have tested it on small branches. No problem whatsoever. So that's very, very nice, but it is exceedingly sharp, and I'm not sure how long it would take for that to dull, but again, multi-tool, it's not something you're supposed to be using all that often. The last tool is a little more interesting than I've seen in the multi-tool category, for it's a, well, serrated blade, which most people, they like their knives to be either like this or they like theirs to be like this. Well, this tool just happens to include both of them, and again, it comes with that kind of flathead screwdriver kind of thing on the end of it, so that makes me wonder if it is in fact a flathead screwdriver or not. But on the other side, it also has a very, very rough file, which can, in fact, sand stuff down like no tomorrow. So that's a lot of tools you get in this little thing, which is pretty surprising, honestly. They fit a lot of utility into one little product right here. Now, it does come in different shapes and sizes. You can get a kind with a hatchet on this end instead of the prying, hook right there, which is absolutely ludicrous because I can't imagine trying to hatchet anything with this little weight and this little leverage. So I'm going to go ahead and call that practically useless. And there's another kind that has another hammer on the end, a sharper pointed hammer on the end of it, which I'm guessing you could use to break glass or indent wood and whatnot, or skulls if that happens to be what you're into. Very, very interesting design, but I wanted to go for the classic hammer look because I think that's the one that works the best. If I wanted to jam this in something and get a little bit of leverage and pry it open, this will certainly do that. Again, it's not perfect. I kind of wish it has some ability to like fold out or something like that, but it doesn't. The scales on it are supposed to be wood, and I think they are. I can't really tell if they're fake or not. They haven't scuffed up or anything in the time I've been carrying it around. They seem just like the day I got them out of the box. The main thing that is going to have to happen with this is you're going to have to keep it oiled. Keep some WD-40 handled and give it a little bit of love every other, week or so to keep it from rusting, because I'm assuming if you let it, it will rust like no tomorrow. And one thing that did surprise me is that when I got this, I pretty much figured that this handle would be hollow, because I've seen even normal pliers that have hollow handles like this, and yet is in fact completely solid metal. I don't know what kind of metal is on it, if there is any kind of designation on the Amazon listing. I will put it up in the video, but other than that, it's really just a neat little gimmick. I like it. It may not be the most practical thing, but it's now what I'm carrying to open boxes and try to see if I can't take stuff apart. It just makes me feel good having something that does a lot of things in one little small package, and I wish I could find like a higher end version of it, but even the one I have has worked perfectly fine. Not that I do tool reviews or anything like that, it's just some people wanted to see it, and if you're into this kind of thing and you don't mind it not being super duper super expensive like your $390 Benchmade whatever, then yeah, I mean, go for it. It works. That's the most important thing. I haven't had it break on me, and I've basically tried to break this off and haven't had any luck with that. And of course, it will work just fine if I were to put this in there. It's a little difficult. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Ah! There we go. It works. No harm done. I like it. I like it a lot. And if you want to get one, there will be a link in the description where you can buy one off Amazon. And if anything, it will also help the channel. So if you are interested, it's not going to break the bank, and I quite like it. So not that I can find any practical use for it other than it being cool, but whatever. It's a tool, and sometimes tools are meant to be fun. I'm Walcom S7, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in an entirely different one. Hey, maybe one that's actually Nerf related. Maybe. Probably.